nervous because I'm quite scary.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. No, it's fine. What have you got? Have you got any questions written down?
Yeah. Has this job given you more opportunities in life, do you think?
Yeah, I work, just to kind of give a bit of background as to what I do, I work as an assistant producer on Scott Mills's show, which is on Radio 1 from 4 till 7 every night. And that involves loads of different stuff, but one of the things is obviously talking and being on the radio. Has it given me more opportunities in life? Yes, it gives me opportunities to do absolutely crazy, ridiculous things that I would never otherwise get the chance to do. And obviously get to meet loads of famous people. I don't know, I guess some people find that exciting. But it's just part of my job. Strange things that I've done done like a flight simulator. I've done, trying to think of all the things I did. There was a thing on Radio 1 where I was trying to find what I was good at, because I'm not really good at anything, but I thought that secretly I might be amazing at something. So they're trying to find what it was. So I did like a flight simulator. I presented on a home shopping channel. I did loads of ridiculous things that I wouldn't do otherwise. I had to try and escape from a straitjacket. Loads of weird stuff. I went in a motor racing car thing with Jensen Button and crashed it really badly. It's really strange things, but just the opportunity to meet loads of different people and to do things that I wouldn't otherwise do. And obviously, if it's part of my job, I do get to do it without having to pay for it. So that is obviously a really good thing. But there's sometimes when you do stuff, and I had to fly this plane simulator thing, and I thought, my boyfriend would love this so much. And I was a bit like, it's a bit technical, and there's loads of buttons, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And you kind of think, I wish I was doing it with him. But it's part of your job. I mean, you do get loads of different opportunities, but it's work at the end of the day.
Have you always been interested in media, or did something or someone inspire you?
I've always been a bit of a radio geek, I think. When I was really young, probably about 7 or 8, 5 Live started. And it was Radio 5 at the time, and it was like a children's radio station and did some sport as well. And I used to phone up all the time for the competitions and try and get on and win stuff, like loads of toys and stuff. So I started doing that, and I think knowing how much I enjoyed that made me really want to work in radio. And when I was about 14 and I went to the careers advisor and they said, what do you want to do? How can we help you? And I said, I want to work in radio. And they're a bit like, well, no, do you want to do anything else? I was like, no, all I want to do is work in radio. So I went and got some part-time work at Orchard FM, which is now Heart, I think, in Taunton, when I was about 14 or 15, and then just carried on from there. Just worked really hard, like doing part-time work there and doing loads and loads of stuff for free. So I think that's all I've ever really wanted to do. And my dream when I was younger was to work on Scott's show. So actually I've got kind of my dream job, which not many people can say. So yeah, I've always wanted to do it. I don't know what I'd do if I wasn't doing that.
Okay. Knowing you are from Bridgewater, did you have to travel to get the job you have now?
Yes, I think the really annoying thing about the media is that there isn't much, especially nowadays, there isn't much locally, which I think is a real shame. You could obviously work on the Mercury, but I wanted to do radio because it's more kind of immediate and it's more engaging. So I had to travel to Taunton to do that. And then ultimately I knew that if I wanted to work at a bigger radio station, the only really, really big radio stations, the national ones, are in London. So I had to move to London and try and make it work there. But I've moved out of London now. I live in Reading and I kind of commute in because London is so busy. I had enough.
Was this job something you've always dreamt of, or did it happen by chance?
A lot of people say that it's about who you know, I think, and kind of, but also the experience that you've got. So it was working at Radio 1 and working on Scott's show in particular was something that I've always wanted to do since I was like 15. I used to work at Somerset County Council, and I used to drive in every morning. I used to listen to Sarah Cox when she was on the breakfast show, and I used to think, wow, this was amazing. This would be so good to work here. And I think it's all the different little things that I did, all the times that I worked for free, all the extra bits where I offered to help out at different places, and just the people that you meet through that then ultimately kind of they move on to other jobs, and then you can ring them up and go, please, 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 can I come and do something for you for free there? And then you kind of work your way up until eventually you start getting paid for it. Not very much, but you start getting paid for it. And then I managed to get my dream job at Radio 1, which I got through somebody that I knew who I'd worked at another radio station, was then working at Radio 1. So I spoke to them and I managed to get some freelance shifts. And then eventually a job came up and I got an interview and then managed to get it, which was good.
Yeah, you've answered all my questions.
That's all right. Hello.
Is it scary be your voice be on live on radio?
I actually find this scarier, not because of it, not because it's you, but I don't know. I'm actually a really shy person, and I think when I went into radio, I didn't ever want to be a presenter. It kind of just happened that me and Scott got on really well, and it was funny us working together. So rather than me telling him a joke and then him trying to do it on his own, it was easier if I just came on and kind of spoke with him. But when you're actually doing the show, it's me, Scott, and the producer is a guy called Emlyn, or the one that doesn't speak. We sit in this little dark room, little dark radio studio, underground in Radio 1 in London, so there's no windows or anything, and it's just us sitting there having a chat like three friends. So you don't actually get that nervous when you think about it. It's only when you say something and you think, oh my God, why did I say that? Like 7 million people would have just heard that. Like the time I accidentally gave out my email address, I was sitting there and I was taking the mickey out of somebody who'd had his email. I think it was Brian, who used to be on Big Brother, and he had like his email address of like brian.whatis@hotmail.com, and I was like, if he's stupid enough to have his first name and last name at whatever, and then I was like, so that would be like me having Beccy Huxtable and I was like, oh my God. And Scott looked at me and he went, that's your email address, isn't it? And I went, yep. And I'd just given it out to the entire country. And all of a sudden, because we've got MSN at work, all of a sudden my MSN was like, ding, 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 ding. Oh my God, is this you? Oh my God. And the whole screen just kind of filled with people going, hiya, do you want to be my friend on MSN? I was like, oh no, what an idiot. So it's kind of scary when you realise what you could say and what you can kind of give away. But I mean, most of the time it's not. I've got more scared doing the lights and doing this, more nervous than, because you can just like see everybody.
Would you ever like to be on TV?
No. It's too much hassle. I think, not hassle, but I think there's the difference between TV and radio is radio, you can literally get a microphone, plug it in and go, ta-da, here I am, doing whatever. Whereas TV, there's so much more to think about. You've got to think about the camera, the lights, or the microphones as well. You've got to get everybody ready, and do like loads of takes. And it's kind of, there's something really magical about radio that you can just do it. Whereas TV, I tried to do TV news when I was at university, and just carrying all the stuff with me all the time, just a bit heavy.
How did you get into radio?
Well, like I said before, I started like on 5 Live and then worked at Orchard FM, and then Orchard FM was taken over by a bigger group of radio stations. So I managed to get a transfer to Bournemouth, where I went to university, and then I did a news course at Bournemouth, and then I did some freelance work at Virgin Radio in London, which I think is now called Absolute Radio, and then I went travelling for ages because I couldn't get a job. Spent all my money, got into loads of debt, which I still haven't paid back. It's not advisable, don't do that. And then I managed to get some freelance work at Radio 1, so very hard work.
Would you ever go on holiday?
Would I ever go on holiday? Yeah, I try to take as much holiday as I can. It gets quite stressful, my job, so as many holidays as I possibly can when I can afford them. If not, sit at home and watch Jeremy Kyle.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
When did you decide that you wanted to work on the radio?
Yeah, probably when I was really, really young. I think it was just really exciting. I don't know what I would do if I didn't do that. I think a lot of people who work in the media, you have to love it so much to put up with the kind of the hours and the really low pay, and everyone sees it as like this really glamorous kind of exciting world, which yes it is, because you do get to meet the famous people, but it sounds really awful, but after a while you realise that they're just people, and it's, they come in and they're often, in a rush, or they're not very nice, and the ones that you think, wow, I've really liked you for ages and ages and ages, and then you come in and then you meet them and they're not very nice, and you think, oh no, rubbish, I've really liked you. I think, what did you ask me? I've completely forgotten.
And when did you decide?
Oh, when did I decide? Yeah, from when I was really, really young, really young.
What subjects did you study at school and college to get the experience for your career?
I always thought, I think, that it was better to do kind of a load of different subjects and then work out what I wanted to do afterwards. So like GCSEs, I think I did all the normal ones. And I did French and German, history, which I think I did for options and stuff. Combined science, well, I was not very good at science. And then A-levels I did French, politics, general studies and English. So I thought if I get some sort of generic ones, I can and then if I don't succeed in doing media, at least I've got other options that I can kind of fall back on.
Who works the hardest on the Scott Mills show?
Well, that's a really good question. Who works the hardest? The one that doesn't speak is by far the hardest working person on that show. He comes up with all the ideas, he puts together so much of it, and it's from his brain, his weird little brain, that the Scott Mills show comes from, and he gets in the earliest, he stays the latest, he's almost always working weekends. He's incredible and just doesn't stop working, to the point where I have to tell him that he needs to take his holiday. I need to tell him that he needs to have his lunch, and I'll kind of go out and get his lunch, because sometimes he gets to like 5 o'clock and he's looking a bit faint and he's forgotten to eat because he's so busy. So it's probably him, and then me and Scott. Scott obviously does all the presenting, so that's really, really stressful, even though he doesn't come in till sort of lunchtime. He obviously has to concentrate really hard and work on that, and then I do a fair amount, but not compared to what the one that doesn't speak does. But he's the producer, so he's in charge of it, so he gets all the awards and kind of all the glory for it.
Where do you plan on going on with your career now?
My boss asked me this the other day and said, oh, you need to have like a 5-year plan. I was like, I don't know. Get married and have some kids. I don't know. I think the weird thing about having your dream job is that you don't actually, once you get there, you're like, I didn't actually think I'd ever have this, so I kind of spent my whole life thinking that this is what I wanted to do. Now I've got it, I'm thinking, don't know what else to do next. No idea, but I need to think of something, because I can't be on the Scott Mills show forever, but probably work in radio somewhere else, or go and do something completely different, like go and work at Monkey World, or go and do something. I love monkeys, so I might go and do something completely crazy.
That's all.
All good, thank you. Wasn't too bad, was it? No.
Okay, so thank you very much, people. Okay, so next I'd like to invite up Shine Spencer and Trisha Jenica.
You come with the scary questions.
Okay, do you have a certain routine when you interview celebrities or general public?
Yeah, we're quite laid back on the show. So normally, say we were to get a guest in, we normally forget that they're coming in until about half an hour before they're due in. And then we run around going, take that, coming in. So then we have to think of loads of questions to ask them, and we'll go through like on websites and stuff and kind of find out what they've been up to recently, and then go through with Scott and write like loads of different questions out so that he's got stuff planned, which is good.
What was going through your mind when you got told that you're going to work for BBC?
Oh, I was so excited, really excited. Yeah, it was because it's what I'd always wanted to do. I think I was just so happy. And I said to someone the other day, they said, oh, what did you think? And I didn't even ask, like, how much holiday, you know, when you're meant to go to job interviews and you're meant to kind of work out how much you're going to get paid, what holiday you're going to get, what you're actually going to be doing. They said, do you want to work here? I was like, yep. And I spoke to my dad, I think, and he was like, so, you know, what's the salary like? How long are you full time? Are you part? So I was like, no, I didn't, no idea. I just said yes. But I think you know, if it excites you that much, you just kind of say yes and then worry about it afterwards.
Did you originally wanted to work for BBC?
Yeah, I think I always wanted to work for Radio 1. There's loads of local radio stations, like commercial radio stations which play all the adverts and stuff. And they're really, really good when you're starting out to go and kind of work there because there are so many of them and they're quite local. But to get the freedom to kind of be creative, it's better to go to the BBC because obviously they don't have to please all the advertisers and stuff, so you can do more exciting things rather than just play music and, you know, do adverts.
Most interesting person you ever interviewed?
Whoa. I've done so. I've never interviewed people. The only people I've ever interviewed on my own were, I think it was Justin Timberlake and Cameron Diaz, and that was quite scary doing it on my own. But with Scott, we've interviewed so many people that they're all completely different. Kylie, we interviewed. Just trying to think. Take That we had on the show recently. JLS. When JLS came in, they were trying out this thing to try and find what I'm good at. And they thought it would be good to see if I was a cheerleader. So they got these cheerleaders in, and then all of a sudden JLS turned up. And Scott was like, brilliant, JLS are here to judge your routine. And I'm there, and like this, because of, you know, I didn't know what I was going to wear. So I had like my jeans and then this silly little cheerleading skirt on. And this ridiculous top and these pom-poms. I was like, brilliant, I'm meeting JLS looking like an idiot. and then an Aston said, go on. I was like, great. At the end of the routine is splits. And I've got jeans on and I can't do the splits. And JLS are kind of there going, go on. I was like, oh my God, I've got to just do it. And I was like, ooh. And I did it. And bless them, they were really sweet. They were probably laughing a lot inside, thinking, who's this weirdo? But on the outside, they were really nice. So yeah, there's so many different people that, loads of different ones. I can't think of them all off the top of my head.
What sort of advice would you give to young people who are interested in media?
Be prepared to work really long hours and for free a lot of the time. I had like 2 jobs. I worked in Boots, and then I did the radio station stuff at the weekend, like for a day for free. I think you just got to go out and try and meet as many people as you can and get as many contacts as you can, and also get as much experience as you can. And doing kind of media production courses and all that sort of stuff is really good as well. But you need to do like your course and do your work experience and meet as many people as you can and have a bit of luck at the same time. So quite a lot of things to fit in, but if you've got time, then I'd recommend it.
What level of education would you need to be who you are?
Well, I've got a degree in multimedia journalism, but I would say at the moment it's, and this is probably a really bad thing for me to say when you're all trying to learn more, I would say that my degree it helped me in the fact that I could hang around for 3 years and get work experience and look like I was doing something, so my parents were pleased. But as far as actually has it been worthwhile to get my job, I'd probably say no. It's probably been the work experience that I've done that's helped me, and the kind of A-levels. My boyfriend also works in media, and he did A-levels and got his grades weren't that good, and then he went to work at a BBC local radio station, just helping out again, a bit the same as me. And he's now a lot more successful than I am and earns a lot more money. So it really depends on, but I don't think you need a degree, especially at the moment when it costs so much money. If you want to do the media, just go out there and get work experience, get your A-levels, get your That's, forget what it is, like BTEC or whatever it is, media production, and then just go out there and try and get as much work as you can.
Is your job anything you would thought it would be?
Yes, yeah, it's really good. Yeah, really, really good. I don't think there's anything I'd change about my job, I don't think. So it is everything I thought it would be and more. So.
What do you dislike about your job?
To say I dislike anything makes me seem like really ungrateful, but I think because ultimately it is a job and you do it every single day and you go in and, you know, it's quite the same. Unless you have guests and stuff, it is quite the same every single day. But it's good fun. I think I work quite long hours and have quite a long journey to work. And sometimes I think, I wished I lived close to work, I could just drive in, it'd be much easier. But in London, you just can't do that. And having to work in London, it's so expensive to live in London that you just can't. You can't really afford it. But
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
no worries.
Which story have you covered which has touched you the most?
I saw this question this morning, and my boyfriend said, "Which one?" And I went, "Oh, I don't know." I guess helping people, and we used to do this thing on the show where people used to email in with, if someone was ill or sick and they really wanted to meet a famous celebrity or something, and we try and sort it out. Random acts of kindness, it was called, if someone had done something and you wanted to help them. And we used to get them to, meet McFly or whatever. I think that was really good, seeing people's reaction. And, yeah, it's just helping people and seeing how excited people get when they see Scott and all that sort of stuff.
From your experiences and the hard times, have you ever wanted to give up? Just stop everything?
Yeah. I think I didn't quite realise how different it would be from being kind of behind the scenes as a radio producer and then being on air. And when the first time I got recognised, it really freaked me out because someone came up to me at a train station and I thought they were just going to ask me for what time the train was or whatever. And he was like, oh my God. And I was like, oh. And then you have that thing of like, I don't know you, but you know me. And there was this strange guy on the train the other day who sort of tapped me on the shoulder as I was getting on the train, and I sort of looked and I thought, he's a bit weird. And I kind of got on a carriage further down, and then he came and sat next to me, like way too close. And then afterwards he was on Twitter, and he messaged me and he said, I think I sat next to you on a train today. And I was like, oh, you were the weird one that tapped me on the shoulder and then came sitting next to me. And I don't think I quite realised how strange that would be, and also kind of how much people would know about my life. And I think when I first started doing it, I said way too much about my boyfriend, and he really didn't like it because people were phoning him up. And we were talking about something, I think we were talking about someone else getting married, and his mum was listening, and she'd completely misheard it. And she rang him and went, why didn't you tell me you were getting married? And he was like, am I getting married? And then he rang me and went, why are you saying that we're getting married? I'm like, I'm not. I don't know anything about this. So that kind of Chinese whispers thing, I'm meant to have had like a boob job and all this sort of stuff, because people have misheard little bits and then rang other people and then rang my mum, and she's gone, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm not getting a tattoo. I haven't had a boob job. It's like, just ring me up if you want to know. So that was kind of weird, and I found it quite hard, and I thought, I'm just going to quit and do something else. But ultimately, you love it so much that you can't ever leave.
Has anyone put you down and said that you won't make it far?
Yep, all the time. My boss at Radio 1 doesn't really see that I'm any good, which is fine. But Scott, likes it, and the listeners seem to like it. So as far as I keep going, it is weird when you get that criticism, because ultimately you are kind of forced to put yourself out there. It's like when I did the lights switch on last night. If I'd come on and everyone had booed, I didn't ask to do the lights. Do you know what I mean? Someone asked me to do it, and it's kind of a bit weird when you get people just shouting at you, or they text in, because we've got a text system at Radio 1, they text in and go, oh, you're rubbish. And sometimes I think, I quite like to phone you back and go, no, you're rubbish. But you can't do that. But, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I sit at home sometimes and think, God, they're not funny, or they look a bit weird in that outfit that they're wearing on telly. So kind of you can't please everyone all the time, I don't think.
When you first heard your voice on the radio, how did you feel?
Hated it. I still hate it now. Like when I'm making the when I make the podcast, if I can, I try to edit myself out. Like if I've said something stupid, I'll cut it so that I look less silly. But I don't think anyone likes hearing their own voice. It's just really strange. You hear it, you're like, oh, I don't sound like that. So yeah, it is a bit weird. I still haven't got used to it.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give you a clap.
Okay. I'm going to sit down. Okay, I'd like to thank you very much for all the people who just asked questions there. Absolutely superb.
Thank you.
But
Really good.
I was really surprised, actually. Well, not surprised. That sounds horrible, doesn't it? I'm really, 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 really pleased with the questions coming out there, which unfortunately leaves us in the point where we're opening to questions off the floor. Let's see if we've exhausted all the possible questions we can ask. Has anyone got any questions? Yeah. Oh, here we go. Okay.
Who was your role model when you were growing up?
So who was your role model when you were growing up?
Oh, what, in a radio, like in a, or just in anybody?
Like somebody that you wanted to be when you were...
I think probably as I got older, listening to a lot of girls on the radio, because you don't get many girls on the radio, I don't think. It tends to be a man thing to do radio presenting, and then the girls tend to be the sidekicks, a bit like me. But good female presenters, I think, like Jo Wiley, Sarah Cox, they're really good because they've done it themselves and they're kind of gone on to be amazing. So, yeah, people like that.
Excellent.
Who's the funniest person you've interviewed?
Oh, funniest. I've interviewed loads of comedians. Alan Carr's funny. Who else is funny? Gerard Butler is a actor. I don't know if you know him. I think he was in P.S. I Love You. He's very funny. Jason Manford was funny. Loads of people that make you laugh. And then there are some that aren't very nice.
Excellent. Okay, boy in the second row, just there.
Who would be your dream person to interview?
That's quite a hard one. At the moment, I would love to interview William and Kate Middleton, because I think I am obsessed with the royal wedding, and I don't quite know why, because I didn't think I would be, and then it was announced, and everyone in the office was like, oh my god. And we've got like a little TV, and we just had, I think Scott was actually off filming a documentary in Uganda, so it was me and Sarah Cox, and Sarah was obsessed with it as I was, and that whole show that afternoon sort of turned into like rolling news, and we were sort of playing the music but watching on the telly, and every now and then she'd have to talk, and she'd be like, oh, sorry, I've just watching, look at her ring, look at her dress, oh, I'm going to camp out, we need to get our space ready for like next year, so... Probably those two at the moment. I'd like to know a bit more about her, because I think that was the first time we'd ever heard her speak. She's so posh. She was like posher than him. And we couldn't believe it. I thought she must be putting that on. But yeah, and I'd quite like to do a little cheeky interview with them. It'd be good.
Excellent. Can we go to this question over here?
Have you met anyone like famous from America?
I met Kiefer Sutherland, who's Jack Bauer. I've met... Kylie, she's Australian, obviously. I'm trying to think of all the big bands It's easier if you say people and then I can say whether I've met them or not, because I can't remember off the top of my head, which sounds ridiculous.
You met Justin Bieber?
Yes. We have met Justin Bieber. Now, what can I say? What can I say about Justin Bieber? It's really difficult because obviously Justin Bieber has like a massive fan base. And I don't want to say that he was rude and a little bit standoffish, but he was. I think there's this weird thing with Bieber where people meet him and he's obviously got so many fans. Like, do you really like? Yeah. And I can see why, because of his music and the kind of the way he is. And you meet him and I'm going to be fair to him, he is obviously under so much pressure at the moment, and he's being pulled here, there, everywhere. He's got to go on tour here, he's got to go here. He's not getting any sleep, he's not getting any... And he's just a teenage boy. And do you know what? If I was a teenager and I had that amount of money and I had that amount of girls or boys going, oh my God, shouting my name, I'd just turn into like, yeah, get me this, get me that, do this, I want this games console, I want this, yeah, give me that. And, you know, that's what he was, and he's, bless him, I think, you know, if you met him under different circumstances, then he'd be really nice. But we met him and I think he'd had a really difficult few days and he was being pulled, and it must be really difficult not to have any control over your life and have somebody, loads of people telling you, right, just in here, and someone trying to do your makeup, someone moving your hat, someone kind of rushing around, and in the end he has to say, can you get me this, can you get me that, because he can't just go out to the shop and get a bar of chocolate or a can of Coke. He has to have someone to do that for him. But bless him, we did a thing, and we were like, we wanted to know what he didn't like, so we gave him 60 seconds to say everything he didn't like, and he just reeled them off. I was like, oh my God, he didn't even have to think about it. He was like, I don't like girls that try to impress me, I don't like girls that wear Uggs, I don't like being made to wait, I don't like being asked my favourite colour, I don't like... And I was like, whoa, Justin, he just sorted this out. But yeah, I think Scott's got the Bieber fans really hate Scott because Scott sort of implied that he wasn't very nice when you met him, and all the Bieber people were like, we're going to come and get you. Scott was like, ah. But yeah, no, I think to be fair to him, he was probably under pressure that day.
Brilliant. Do we have another question over here? Oh, I see a hand over there at the back.
In your job, what other people do you work alongside?
Well, I work with Emlyn, who's the producer of the show, and then obviously Scott, the presenter. And then we've got the people who work in news, and then obviously the bosses who don't do very much apart from tell us what to do. Then we've got the technical people who kind of do all the microphones and make sure the studio's working and all that sort of stuff. And then the kind of HR and like officey type people who do all the admin and hire the people, make sure the right people are in the right jobs and look after us. And that's about it, really, I think. It's the same as you would do in any office, but then you've got the producers and the technical staff and then the press and marketing department as well. So there's a lot of stuff you can do at a radio station which doesn't involve actually the creative part of being on air. You can do other stuff like press, marketing, and you still get the atmosphere of working in the radio station. You still might get to meet the famous people, but you're not actually involved directly in the programme making.
Got a sea of hands over here, so I'm going to have to come back to here.
Did you ever think you would achieve this much?
No. Not at all. I thought I'd still kind of pinch myself when Sarah was in the other week, and I sat there and we do this thing on Friday night between 6 and 7, the dance music. It's called Floor Fillers. And they're all pre-mixed. So we just sit there, she presses a button, and then every 10 minutes she has to talk and press another button. And she'd brought in her manicure set. She was like, oh, we can do nails because it's going to get a bit dull. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I actually said to her, I said, do you know, I used to drive to the council to work thinking, oh, I'd love to work at Radio 1 and you're so funny. And now I'm sitting here and you're going, oh, I think this colour would look really good on your nails. And then she's bought me like a little nail file. I was like, this is so surreal. You still kind of have to pinch yourself to realise that you're really lucky.
Excellent. Second row just there.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
The most exciting bit is meeting different people and doing completely random things. One afternoon I was asked to get a horse outside Radio 1 to surprise Scott because he was frightened of them. And I remember thinking, right, okay, it's about 4 o'clock and I've got to get a horse to Oxford Circus in the centre of London by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Brilliant. I thought, how on earth am I going to do this? And I just had to ring round loads of people, and in the end I got a horse from the army to come down. And I did it, and as the horse kind of came round the corner, I thought, whoa, it's quite exciting, but also it's just, I guess the most exciting bit is the randomness of it, and you can never do the same thing each day.
Excellent. Got a question right from the back there.
You present lots of music on your show, so what's your favourite style of music?
Me and Scott are probably we were saying this the other day, that we've got such a broad taste in music that we probably just buy like greatest hits albums and now albums, like the real kind of mainstream, like top 40 type music. I think a lot of people are into like specialist music and different bands and stuff, but if I hear a song and I like it, I like it. There's not one particular band or group that I really, really like. So probably just chart stuff.
Excellent. So we had just that.
Would I go to the royal wedding? Oh, would I like to do the commentary? Oh my God, that would be hilarious. Yes, I think, but I wouldn't be allowed to do it on the BBC probably because they'd have someone really serious. Probably a royal correspondent. I think if me and Scott turned up and decided to do maybe we could do like a version on the red button like Chris Moyles did for the World Cup games. He did like an alternative commentary on the red button, which was quite funny, which I think was them sitting around eating pizza going, oh, look, there he goes. Oh, he scored. Oh, no, he hasn't. Oh, has he? Yeah. So I think if we could do that, that's quite a good idea. I might suggest that we could do some kind of alternative commentary. It would be quite funny.
Brilliant. Do we have a question over here?
From your experience, what advice would you give to students who are thinking about a career in the media industry?
Get as much work experience as you can and make as many contacts as you can, I think is the best advice. Just try and keep trying, and if you get knocked back, then keep trying, because it's a really hard industry to get into, especially at the moment when big radio groups are taking over lots of smaller stations. Like I know now, where I started at Heart in Taunton, now I don't know if I'm right in saying this, but now there aren't any programmes that come from there. They all come from Bristol. So, I mean, maybe things like the Star Radio that were there last night at the Light Switch On, they're probably quite a useful one to get to know and kind of just go in there and offer to make. It sounds ridiculous and everybody says it, but it's that whole thing of going in and making cups of tea and doing photocopying and putting CDs away and downloading tracks. You know, it's that whole thing of just going in, getting to know people and doing as much as you can. But it's a long, hard slog unless you're lucky enough to get... the BBC do some amazing trainee schemes, which you can just apply for, and you don't have to have any experience. And almost on those sort of schemes, they prefer it if you don't have any experience because you're fresher and you can just come in and they'll take you on. So applying for stuff like that, if you're lucky to get on them. If not, it's a long, hard slog.
Are there any other radio stations you'd like to work with?
Probably a nice one on the beach in Australia or a nice one in America. But in the UK, I'd probably go and work at Radio 2 when I get old enough. But apart from that, not really.
Question just there?
What's been the most embarrassing moment on radio?
The most embarrassing, probably either driving the Formula One car really badly in front of Jenson Button and not knowing which was the accelerator and which one was the brake, and then him saying, why did you put your foot on the accelerator? And I said, because my car is an automatic. And he went, well, you still have to use the accelerator. And I think he just thought, what on earth is going on here? Who is this woman and what does she think she's doing? Or recently, we did an awful interview with Rob Brydon from Gavin and Stacey and Steve Coogan, who plays Alan Partridge. And it didn't go well from start to finish. I don't know if any of you heard it. They came in and I don't know what it was. I think me and Scott were just really tired. We'd been doing the breakfast show and I just went a bit crazy and I started slagging off his hair and something else I said to him, and I got their names wrong at one point, and then they started being rude to me and I was rude to them, and it was just all a bit like, oh, this is really embarrassing. So either, yeah, probably that actually. That wasn't a good day.
Okay, we've got a question just here.
Do you always know what you're going to be doing during the week? Like, is it set or...
Yeah, there's a certain structure. So I'll go in the morning and make the podcast, and then Emlyn, the producer, will send around a list of things that need to be done, like clips of TV shows, getting innuendo bingos and all that sort of stuff, getting vox pops and things like that. So apart from making the podcast, yeah, every day is different, coming up with weird and strange ideas for the guests. Like we had Chase Crawford in from Gossip Girl, plays Nate, and we got Scott, he was feeding Scott baby food, and Scott was blindfolded and he had to do a taste test. And I thought, why are we doing this? Because it was just one of those weird ideas. You kind of sit around in a group and think, what can we make this celebrity do? What are they not going to do? Right, let's get them to do that. And I think it just gets weirder and weirder every day.
Right. Do we have any more?
No.
Will we run out of questions? Go on, one more. One more question. Come on. Oh, there we go.
What's your worst personal habit?
Worst habit? God, I don't know. I don't know. You'd probably have to ask my boyfriend. I don't know off the top of my head. Laughing at my own jokes? No, I don't know. Saying OMG way too much.
Brilliant. Okay, if there's no more questions, then I think winds up our interview.
Cool,
So
yeah.
thank you very much for joining us.
No worries.
And before we go, just like to we want to have a quick photo opportunity with the people who asked the questions. So if we can get Sarah back in, do that. And I'd like to invite all the people who did the questions to come back to the front. So all 5. So can we have a big round of applause again for Lawrence Miller, Laura Singleton, Kaylee Ashworth, Sharon Spencer, and Trisha Janica. Come up front, okay? Just do a few quick stops.
of course, yeah.
And while we're getting that going, I'd also like to say a big thank you for all the guys who've been running it today. Bear in mind, this has been filmed by Taster Sessions. This is their first time in this Taster studio, so I'd like to hear a big round of applause for these guys who have completely got names off. Absolute superb job, thank you very much. Superb, so do. And thank you very much for joining us here. Let's see if we can do it a bit more often.